isn't it? Well, just think of this. Somebody in government has decided to allow this man's testimony to remain on YouTube. And I think I know why a Nazi would do that. Some of those guys in the Nazi regime think that the brightest should be spared. They should be warned and saved, if possible. But how is that possible? They have tickets for the underground cities and you don't. So no matter how bright you are, you can't feed yourself on the surface even if you are tipped off and you move from the coast where you are toast. If all the fresh fruits and vegetables on the surface are destroyed, what are you going to eat? Shoelaces? How are we going to rebuild? It will take decades to recover from this. A manufacturing plant went up because there were places already existing that could supply them with materials. When you destroy all of that, you have to start from the beginning. And when you have to start over, some of the sciences can be lost. When the Palladians dropped off their own people and they came back decades later, they found that they had regressed. They became wild again. Well, if you spend 12 hours a day planting seeds, what time do you have left for the internet? And it's not there anyway. Think about it. You can't just reorder the materials you need and have them sent to you. Everything is destroyed. The ability to replace those things that were destroyed is also lost in the destruction. We have a very fragile economy, and it's susceptible to sudden crash for a variety of reasons. Those who controlled our economy for decades caused crashes just by restricting credit. Then they bought up all the best businesses, and then they allowed the credit to flow again, and everything resumed. Good times, only they owned everything now. A lot of times they use government money to buy these things. And when they use government money, you know who the government is? Now it's you. They use your money. You're the government. They use your money to buy things. When government has privileges, that's not you. That's them. They use government money to buy General Motors so that they can guarantee that no efficient engines will ever be put into cars and trucks. So you will always be forced to pay $4 a gallon for gas now and $40 a gallon in the future because of the slavery. You are a slave. Did you know that? Sorry to bring you the bad news. I thought you knew. Isn't it time you get a clue about you? At about 2 minutes into this video, the insider says that when he first started seeing it, it was a fuzzy red dust ball. But over the years, he and his friends watched it, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time it appeared to be across the street, somebody pulled the plug and encrypted the signal, and the NIBIRU party was over for the CIA. The party was over, but the hell was just beginning here on Earth. And this man decided to do an interview and tell others what he knows, what he witnessed. And if you're clever enough to know the difference between personal testimony and third-person rumors, then you have access to the truth, as it is being reported in this video testimony of an insider who wants you to know. I don't know if this insider has thought this through. I mean, informing us of the upcoming event. Where are we going to put all the people who flee the coastal areas? And how are we going to feed them? Who could handle so many refugees? Can you imagine the entire state of New York moving to Ohio? If Ohio's population grew by 30 million people, it would be a boom that would last 50 years. But if you move those 30 million people in 1 month, it's a disaster. More people will die from being without food and water and shelter than would be killed by a 3-mile-high wave. So what good does it do to tell anyone? Do you think the insiders know which areas are going to flood when sea levels rise as a result of a shifting in the Earth's crust? That 2-mile-high pile of ice on Antarctica will be in sunshine and tropical, and it will melt, and sea levels will rise. Now, do you think these guys know how much it will rise? Let me give you a clue. It might be 600 feet. You know who told me that? I've left you plenty of clues for you to figure it out. But let's say that they're right. 600 feet rise in sea level puts most of Illinois underwater. All of the land around the Mississippi is underwater, and Washington, D.C. is also underwater. And the coast of Georgia is found in Atlanta. Edgar Cayce also talked about this. If all the area that's 600 feet above sea level is underwater, then the Great Lakes will empty into the Gulf of Mexico, just like Edgar Cayce predicted, that it will be salt water from New Orleans to Chicago. And the narrowest width of that sea will be about 50 miles, just like Al Bielek described when he went to the future. He wasn't the only one who went to the future. Andy Basiago went to the future many times. One time they sent him to the year 2013, and his assignment was to go to the Supreme Court building and tell them what he saw. He came back and said it's under 100 feet of water. This was called the Pegasus Project. They said 100 feet of water? How do you know? He says, because there's algae growing on the columns. And then he emptied out his boots and they were full of water. I don't know how he breathed underwater. You have to ask him. He's a lawyer operating in the state of Washington. He is a very articulate man. He is very credible. Not everything he says is credible. When he talks about life on Mars, I don't buy it. I think there is life on Mars, but I don't think he found it. I think he found a shadow that looks like a human being. We tend to see human faces in things, and we think that means human beings. That's just craziness. So the Supreme Court building rests on ground that's about 85 feet, 88 feet above sea level right now. None of that property is more than 90 feet above sea level, give or take 5 feet. If the sea level rose just 200 feet, the Supreme Court building is under 100 feet of water. And this was the year 2013. So there is no soon, and how soon, real soon garbage like you get from Sheldon Neidl. Who else traveled in time? Ascot took Billy Meyer back to meet Jesus, and they brought a Russian with them named Jitsu. So where did the time machines come from? Well, the aliens brought theirs, but Nikola Tesla died and left behind the plans for one that was used to, they built it. Nikola Tesla gave us alternating current, and we light our light bulbs and computers with this type of electricity, not the type that Thomas Edison was pushing, DC. AC had some advantages. So this genius Nikola Tesla designed a time machine, and he left the plans behind. He did not build it. He died in 1943, and the War Department rushed in and seized all his papers. And they built the time machine, and it worked. And a lot of people died as they were trying to figure out how it worked. Andrew Basiago routinely went to the future and brought back the records of upcoming events so that those privileged people could know what the future was. And if you think they didn't make a killing on the stock market and that kind of thing, forget it. They did. They knew exactly what was going to happen, and they placed their bets. There is rumor, personal testimony from people who were involved, not rumor, but personal testimony. It's the truth. So which one do you pick? There's no gun to your head here. Was Edgar Cayce lying about the Great Lakes emptying into the Gulf of Mexico? Did Al Bielek make up his journey into the future to see the Great Lakes emptying into the Gulf of Mexico? Maybe you think Andrew Basiago is lying too. The Insider says he watched this planet coming in on a screen, and that the signal was coming from the Hubble Space Telescope. Is he lying too? He didn't sound like he was lying to me. To me, it sounds like someone describing what he actually saw. vividly. At 2 minutes and 6 seconds into this video, he said we could see it was a blazing hot ball of fire. He said it was a solar system and that it's coming through our solar system, and that can't be good, he said. Then he said something really scary. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this, he said it has asteroids that appear to be 500 miles across. Now, if one of them hits the Earth, you can kiss your sweet ass goodbye. We can't take a hit like that. Even if we have an underground city retreat, like those who have raped and pillaged our country, and if they die in their bunkers, you know we should all cry for them. Sob, sob. At 3 minutes and 5 seconds, the insider is talking about meteorites, and it's clear that he's not a scientist, because a meteor is in space, and a meteorite, it's a meteor that hit the Earth and did not burn up in the atmosphere. So I don't know what he's talking about when he claims that meteors go back for millions of miles in the tail of this orbiting solar system. So if the tail is millions of miles long, this thing is going to make quite a spectacle in the sky. A solar system with 7 planets passing nearby the Earth, 5 times closer than the sun. But anyway, if he's describing what he saw, you have to allow for some errors in labeling these objects. He doesn't know what to call a large iron rock. If he saw something, I want to know what he saw, and I want him to describe it as best as he can. I'll make the adjustments for understanding. But I'm not going to dismiss his testimony just because he calls a meteor a meteorite, or if he calls a moon of one of the 7 planets in that system a meteor. If he perceived that the objects go back for millions of miles in the tail, those objects have to be fairly large. And his testimony is useful because nobody else has testimony like this. The Hubble Space Telescope is not accessible to everyone, and it would be fairly easy to determine who this guy is if the CIA wants to know. It could be that for talking he's dead by now, but I don't know. I don't expect any future interviews with this guy. This is a one-shot deal where he reveals the truth, they kill him, or they tell him just to keep quiet. The information he has is a lot more valuable than the information that Bradley Manning had, because hundreds of thousands of people had access to the information that Bradley Manning had. What Manning released was of no value compared to the eyewitness testimony of somebody who watched NIBIRU come in. That is far, far more damaging to the bankers who have mortgage assets. I have not reached any conclusions. I'm still collecting the facts and the eyewitness testimonies, and I see a pattern. Either all these people are lying and are the greatest actors that Hollywood has ever seen, or they are simply telling the truth. The government says they are lying. What do you think? The government, meaning the secret government that puts out all the propaganda, wants you to believe in them after they've been caught lying about everything from NASA and space to the puppet presidential race to the economy and the unemployment rates. At 3 minutes 40 seconds into this video, he's saying that the speed of this object or solar system will increase as it comes in. It has to in order to achieve breakaway speed. And that is scientifically correct. So someone is telling him the truth. But if they kill this whistleblower, you can be sure that they will have to neutralize his CIA friends also, because they provided him with information. Leaks are plugged in a hurry in the CIA. They don't call the CIA Murder Incorporated for nothing, you know. I had read that the closest NIBIRU will come is 14 million miles, and this guy says 20 million miles instead. Either way, that's too close, and this large thing can rob us of our atmosphere, as Mars was robbed a long time ago. There is also a huge gash in Mars that makes our Grand Canyon look like a nick on a fender. The gash covers about 1/4 of the surface when you're looking at Mars head-on. What caused this? Well, NIBIRU is on the table as one possible explanation. Based on what this insider reports, you have to coalesce this information with all else that you know about Mars and the Gash and the history of the aliens have told us about our solar system. I'm not too proud to consider anyone's testimony if they claim that they watched this thing coming in on the Hubble Space Telescope. I'll consider all the testimony and I will decide what I believe, not the secret government. I don't want them doing my thinking for me. If I want to hear the testimony of Lacerta, a lizard who's lived on this planet, her species has lived on this planet for 65 million years. What are you doing here? Nobody said anything about a bunny rabbit. I'm talking about Lacerta. She's a lizard. Go get Lacerta. That's not Lacerta. That's Towelhead. Lacerta is a lizard. There. That's better. Thank you. She's not an alien. She's a Terran. Or Errol, whose galaxy is so far away that we can't even see it from Earth. If I want to listen to Semyasi, Quetzal, or Ptah, who are all Palladians, and their friend Asket, who's from the Dal universe. If I want to listen to Nancy Leader's friends, the Greys, from Zeta Reticuli, who have been giving us very accurate information for about a decade now, I will hear all of them, and dozens others if I want to, and I will decide what I believe. And nobody's going to stop me with ridicule or humiliation. I'm humble enough to stand up to the humiliation. I don't care about me, I care about the truth. So go ahead and call me names if you want. And I will say to you, kiss my shorts. I don't need your approval to watch whatever I want. Go back to your ball games and your sitcoms and dull your minds so you can no longer think. And they'll inject you with a toxin and you'll be dead in no time now that they have full access to your veins. I will never voluntarily submit to any kind of shot by government. No inoculations from government. Because I'm aware of what they have done in the past to innocent people and I don't trust government. Calling me names is one thing, but gaining direct access to my vein is a little too personal for me. At 3 minutes and 54 seconds into this video, this insider says, this object is going to flip us upside down. Now, does that sound like a pole shift to you? It's possible that the Earth's core remains in place and just the crust shifts. But to those on the surface, it really doesn't matter if the poles shift or the crust shifts because the poles are located now in a different place than before, either way. I want to make that distinction because pseudoscientists are going to argue with me about pole reversals. I want to be clear about what actually happens. The Zetas told us directly that the core of the Earth never changes and that it's locked into something in the universe and it never changes. But the crust shifts, giving us the impression that there was a reversal of the poles. When a large magnetic object comes whizzing past the Earth at a distance of 20 million miles, which is about 22% of the distance to the Sun, that's too close for me, and it could cause this planet to shift suddenly, not the core, but the crust. It's like the cheese on your pizza slides. Now do you get it? And your pepperoni goes flying. I would prefer that this thing was not 20 million miles away, but 500 million miles away. 4 or 5 astronomical units out. The astronomical unit is the distance from the Earth to the Sun. I wish it was 5 times that distance, not 20 million miles. It's 1/5 of the distance. Even 500 million miles is still too close. It will cause earthquakes and volcanoes, like we've been having, and a lot of shifting of the plates, some sinking and some plates lifting up, uplifting. Edgar Casey said that Mu and Atlantis will rise, and the aliens told us that Mu and Atlantis will rise again. Can you believe this? I don't know if it's true. I can't advise you. I'm still collecting the testimonies and trying to figure it all out myself. And you know how dumb I am. I told you I believed all this stuff that they were telling us from the Galactic Federation of Light. How smart can I be? Anyway, at 4 minutes into this, the insider issues a guarantee that 70-pound meteorites will fall to the Earth like hail. He said he guaranteed it. He issued a guarantee that they will. And if they don't, he's going to go out there and gather them all up and make sure that they do. Just kidding. If he's right, look out, because survival will be unlikely. I've been hit by hail, and the ice bullets were small, so it didn't hurt that much. But hail has damaged cars because it's been as large as golf balls. And those only fell from the atmosphere. Imagine something coming in from space at 3 kilometers a second or something. What do you think would happen if a 70-pound iron rock lands on your car, traveling at 3 kilometers a second? You have insurance? It won't help. You're not going to be able to file an insurance claim. You'll be too dead to make a claim, for one. And for two, the insurance company will be too dead from all the tens of millions of similar claims. They're on the verge of bankruptcy now. How could they stand up to a hail of 70-pound rocks from space? They're not going to pay anybody. At 4 minutes and 30 seconds into this guy is telling everybody that they need to be at least 50 feet underground with concrete above their head when this hail starts. Well, folks, I'll tell you something. If a 70-pound rock is fired at the speed of 3 kilometers a second and you're 50 feet underground, you're dead. Trust me, you're dead. That thing will turn concrete into liquid. It'll turn rocks into liquid. It'll be like a volcano. That kind of kinetic energy will turn rocks into lava. You'll be killed by the heat, if nothing else. The impact will kill you if it lands on your head and you're 50 feet underground with cement. You could have a 50-foot thick cement and it will go right through it. Ask the scientists. Do the physics. He said that he was telling everybody that they need to be 50 feet underground. That means he's been talking and he's lived. Well, how does he do that? How does he save his butt from being killed by the CIA? Is he too important to be killed? He uses the word astronomers. He doesn't even say it right. It's astronomers. And he learned to say it wrong. He put the M and the N in different places. Astronomers. He doesn't sound like somebody who's that important. He did not sound well educated. But he was in the right place and he had CIA buddies and he was allowed to watch this. He also talked, which tells me he's not very smart. He should have kept the secret. Because one, he's not doing the people any good. If they all knew, what good would it do them? They'd all die anyway. A few are going to make it. A few very smart people are going to survive this somehow. I'm not sure how. Anyway, the link on your screen is to a video which has been heard by about 11,000 people. And it's not the only copy. So if you have not heard it, you might want to hear it. There's a lot more